Pandora's box is about to open wide.
Welcome back to Pandora's Box, everybody. Happy week to you all. Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here with you. Pleasure to be here. Hello. Drew was just telling me that he got stuck in a bog the other day and got lost in Dartmoor. So I was like, pause that thought, man. Let's start the show and then you can just carry on the tale. So let's set the scene. So what was it, Sunday you said?
It was Monday morning.
Oh, Monday morning.
It was like a pre-work, like let's leave at 7 a.m. and have like a nice walk up.
Do you live really close to the Dartmoor?
Yeah, I live like really like literally about 6 minutes away from the moors. Like
nice,
getting up on the rocks and stuff, and all these beautiful outcrops of like rocks and just vast just.
It's interesting
moss.
as well because I suppose obviously Devon's very close to Somerset, like next county over, but like Dartmoor is very different from say like Exmoor or Quantox. Yeah, very different. Yeah.
Definitely, and like it looks whenever you get up high, it just all looks like beautiful and all looks just like grass. But then
more Rohan than Lothlorien.
Yeah. But then when you get out onto the plains, like you realise how treacherous it is.
The treacherous plains of Rohan.
Seriously, and I
packs of Uruk-hai stealing hobbits.
Oh man, and it's like there were like two outcroppings of rocks. So we went to one, got on top, felt on top of the world, thought, this is amazing. And then I saw another one. Like you had to go down, cross over a road bit, and then there was another one. I said to Meg, let's just go up to that other one, go round it, and then go back to the car that way. So it was like a big loop. And I was like, it'll only be about 40 minutes or something. It'll be fine. And then we'll get back, nice and early still and stuff. Because we left at like 7 a.m. for this walk. So we'd already been out trekking for about 40 minutes already, set off to do that one, got up over, and we were knackered by the time we got to the top. It was like really tired, like kind of misjudged how high the hill was going to be and everything. Headed down the other side, and I'm sure we'll be. I can see the road down there. I'm sure we'll just be able to get to it if we get down, cut across. Meg's like, I don't think so. I think we should go back the way we came. And I'm like, no, it'll be fine. And it's like, because we were also talking. This
is when the narrator's like watching him. He's like, but it was not fine.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
5 minutes later, 10 minutes later.
But little did Drew know it would not be fine.
Oh my God, we didn't have any mobiles or anything like that with us, and I had my nice new Lems hiking boots on, which are amazing and waterproof.
That you got for Peru.
Yeah, but all Meg had on was her little Vivo barefoot, like just like little mini shoes.
Not without being rude to Meg, that's not smart.
I know.
Don't go hiking in them.
Yeah, they're okay for grip and for like actual protection, but you need something up your ankles. It was just not like anything that would go up over your ankles. Like
I think that maybe if you spent like a year or two building up like a tolerance to that, do you know what I mean? Like, but to go almost like in the deep end, where like you're used to wearing hiking boots, and the next thing you know you're wearing little vibros.
Yeah.
I think that's like, because you could like, if you stood on the wrong thing, you could probably like cut your feet up or something, just go right through the sole.
Yeah, probably.
What are they called, Vibrams or?
Vivo barefoot.
Yeah.
So
there's different brands of them nowadays, aren't there?
Yeah, the Lems, like I was looking at getting a pair of shoes like for my birthday, so that's when I looked at these Lems ones, but then I realised they did like a Outlander like full hiking boot kind of thing that aren't like barefoot kind of style. I decided them instead because it's like really grippy and like nice and stuff.
I know we're branching a little bit. We'll obviously go back to the main topic in a sec, but one that I saw, which funnily enough at the time I thought that you would actually quite like, these ones called I think they're called Kabuki.
All right.
But the thing is that the way that they're like designed, like some of them, I don't like the look of some of these like shoes. They almost look a bit like
the Vivo barefoot, so I don't really like the look of that much.
But these are like quite cool. They almost like little like elf boots or something.
Yeah.
But it's just
I've seen those,
super
actually.
thin.
Yeah.
Just like, so it's just the same as the Vivo one, the same concept and everything. The whole idea that obviously the main concept of it's like we naturally were bare feet. Obviously, we the sort of invention of shoes was good in terms of the fact that like, especially if you lived like far north of the equator, like all of our ancestors did in Europe and the UK, Scandinavia, etc. Like it would have been super cold. You don't want to get obviously like frostbite on your toes or anything like that. So obviously it's good. But the downside of that is obviously our feet aren't as tough as they used to be, and also obviously in extreme cases from wearing like shoes, essentially you can get like disabled feet and get like bunions and stuff. I know somebody that's got bunions. Ooh. And like the fact that bunions even rhymes with onions.
Yeah.
Like instantly
bunions just doesn't sound like a good word,
it's not an
does it?
attractive thing, is it? Like if you said like, hi, like I've got bunions. Like, you're like, oh.
Definitely doesn't sound sexy,
I'm definitely not going to be licking your toes. Do you know what I mean? As I said, the fact that it rhymes with onions just makes it a bit funny.
Yeah.
Do you reckon it makes them almost, it makes me think that they would smell a bit like onions, as well as look a bit deformed.
Oh.
But yeah, so anyone that doesn't know what bunions are, it's like if you wear basically shoes that aren't really right for you, maybe they're like a size too small, or just bad shoes, I guess. You know, when like, and I think everyone's feet are like it, unfortunately, to a certain extent. But everyone's like feet are like a little bit of a different shape than they would be if we just never wore shoes. Because obviously from being a small child, you wear shoes, you're packing your feet into these things, and your feet are like molding to the shape of that as they're growing, as your bones are growing. But yeah, I guess bunions is like an extreme case of that, where like people wearing shoes that are too small for them and stuff, and you literally end up almost like disabled feet.
Oh.
But and like they just look weird and stuff, and
it's like those Chinese ones where they wrap the feet and they make them in these weird little points, and they actually break the toes.
Because in ancient Chinese culture, like men used to think that for some reason
small feet were like
smaller feet, like almost like the
beautiful.
smaller the feet of a woman, the more beautiful it was. So then women have got these like savagely disabled, broken,
deformed,
tiny feet. It's mad that they get
pointy.
They don't even fall over, isn't it? Really.
It's horrible, man. I see that, and I'm like, and I remember there was this like movie or a series. I think it was called Geisha, right? Geisha, and a geisha is like a Chinese like dancer. I'm not going to say prostitute, but like almost like
whoa.
I don't know. They might be, but like, do you know what I mean? Like
that went from 0 to 60 very quick. It's not like a dance. I don't want to say prostitute.
I wonder what a geisha would be classed as. But
I'm gonna look it up.
Yeah, could you, man? Because
I don't know how to spell it.
Geisha.
Geisha. A geisha.
Geisha.
A geisha. A traditional female hostess, entertainer, and performing artist.
Ah, okay.
The word geisha consists of two ganji. Ganji. Apparently, it basically means it translates to art.
Oh, okay. So they were more like performing artists rather than prostitutes then.
So they were trained in traditional Japanese performing art styles such as dance, music, and singing, as well as being
it's
proficient.
Japanese as well. It's not even Chinese. But I swear I saw in this, right? I swear I saw in this this series called Geisha. So maybe Japanese do that with the feet as well.
It says here that they are not prostitutes.
No, that's good.
Just to clear the name of any geisha women that are listening, and they are very angry with us right now.
But I think in that, unless I'm just getting it really wrong, like I thought in that program that they did that with the feet as well, which makes me think, did they do that in Japan as well as China?
Yeah, because it was definitely China that was like the main thing. But I mean, let's face it, Japan's not far from China.
Yeah,
maybe it was. I hadn't ever heard of like Japanese women binding their feet in the same way. I mean, potentially could be, similar.
But I saw it anyway on a series at some point, and I was like, that is actually horrible. Like, oh man, because they break the feet when you could hear it, like when they were wrapping it, they do it really tight and like break it from the outside so it curls under your little toes, curl under your other toes and stuff. And I was just like, it looked so savage.
It's just also when you think about like a lot of things in life have like risk and reward, but like some things like the reward is worth the risk. With that, I'm just like, it almost like makes me just almost like annoys me. Yeah. I don't know if annoys me.
I find that a lot with body deformity.
You would like break your freaking feet just to have like weirder, smaller feet.
Yeah, I think that's
stupid.
I even think with like the flesh tunnels and
I'm not a really big fan
stuff.
Of flesh
like
tunnels,
I'm just like, it's just weird. It seems weird. Or like the lips when they do it in the lips, like, and they have these big circles and stuff. And I know it's like part of like cultures and that. Like in Africa, they do
it. But it looks weird.
Ones where they elongate the neck, and they just keep adding rings and rings, and they just stretch their necks right out.
But imagine how weird it would be if they took them off, because they obviously still have really long necks, but they'd almost look like an alien or something.
And that's what they say about, you see like the alien heads in South America.
It's because they used to bind the skulls, so that they'd have like elongated skulls and stuff. Yeah, man. And they do it from like the time from when a baby was born. And as all you parents out there,
malleable.
Yeah, babies are obviously very like malleable, especially like skulls and stuff.
Yeah, they got a hole still in the top of their skull, haven't
you can
they?
like poke it in.
Oh, like an egg yolk.
Yeah. If you want to dip some bread in there, just put a dip of your choice.
Brains on toast.
Put a dip of your choice in there and just get some nice bread. Oh. Depending on what you're feeling, like maybe a pitta, or maybe just good old fashioned, white loaf.
No way. We're going dark.
But let's rewind all the way back to Dartmoor. So Meg was wearing her Vivo.
So she was wearing her little Vivo barefoots, and we were going on this big adventure, and basically like trying to cut down this mountainous path that didn't turn into a path that looked a bit like the fields of Rohan,
the plains of Rohan.
Plains of Rohan, but got to this point, but lots of gorse bush, the really spiky, horrible bush, like. You get to parts of Dartmoor and it's just covered in that, and you can see where the path is, but it's the gorse is so much, and it's just like having to scratch all through that. So we had to scratch through a load of bits like that, and then like ferns just appeared, and we were going through all the ferns and everything, and then literally got to the bottom, and I could see that like we just got to this pass, and it looked like big mounds of grass that were like, but that were like these things that were like, like almost circular, like that, dome bits of grass just everywhere, right?
That's a bit weird,
and from up high they just looked like grass, but in between it was just bog and mud and river. Man. So in between all of these things, it is just like this little mini like river of bog, and literally we got stuck, man, and like we couldn't even get back out the other way, so we carried on down into the bog, and you could stand on the top of these grassy dome bits and then go to other grassy dome bits and just do that slightly, but then sometimes your foot would just go through and you just go down, it'd be right up to your knees in bog, and literally we didn't have a phone, but it got like Meg like was burst into tears and just crying like, I can't believe I'm doing this. I've got work. I'm late for work, and like because
I'm late for work and I'm in a bog.
It turned into like taking hours rather than like just 40 minutes.
You thought you were going out on a nice little leisurely stroll, and the next thing you know, you're stuck in a bog.
Yeah, man, and literally, and then we got down to the bottom, and there was just this barbed wire fence, and I could see the road on the other side. So I'm like, look, we're gonna have to go over this barbed wire fence because we don't want to go back.
I like how you inadvertently took Meg on basically what sounds like an SAS
trip from hell,
like an SAS training course.
I was not in good
stead.
I was not.
You were not in good stead
at all. And then Rupert was just loving it, just bouncing across all of them, just in the bog, fully like, just loving it.
Wanting to join the SAS.
But then we went over this, and I thought, right, we got to get over this the barbed wire fence, and then go that way. But we did it, and we got to put all my like top over so it didn't like cut us and that. Got over, and then it was just gorse and that. But I looked, and it was just a drop, so there was no way that way into the gorse. There was about an 8-foot drop that you went down. So we had to get back over the fence then, and then just go back through the bog the way we came, and then we got stuck in all the ferns, and then we had to just go back up the way we came.
So you went all the way back the way you came?
Yeah.
So how long did the walk take you in a total? About 3 hours?
Oh, yeah. To be fair, when we got back, it wasn't as late as we thought, and like we got back to the car
did you not have
at like
9:40.
Like no, when we got back to the car, we did.
So you were almost like guessing like how.
So Meg thought it was like midday by this point. She was like, just like.
But it was like 10:30 or something.
It was 9:45.
Oh, okay. It's not that bad,
we were out at like 7 a.m. So 7.
Sure. So it was almost 3 hours.
Yeah, but. Man, like it seemed like longer when you're in that situation, and do you know
because of the stress.
Yeah, and like when we were so stuck in all the bog and everything, it was like you're gonna get out, but you don't know how you're gonna get out, and it's like that you're just gonna have to just keep persevering until you get back to that. And then we got back to this other part, and we saw the road, and we asked this woman, and she was like, "Oh no, you're in the completely wrong area. You need to go back over that mound, like over that way." And we were like, "Oh my god!" So then we had to walk up the hill again, through all the ferns again and everything.
Though, sounds like you had some good exercise.
Oh mate, my legs felt savage like for the next 2 days. Like,
but the thing is, I always think with
all
exercise,
in the joints and everything as well.
Yeah, I think with anything like that as well. I remember hearing this and like where I train, because I built a home gym with my missus' granddad, like years ago now, probably about like 4 years ago now. But I built like a home gym. So obviously I don't have any like aircon or anything like that. So in the winter it's like pretty freezing, and obviously in the summer it's bleeding hot. But I remember like hearing actually like it was like as a side effect, like obviously I didn't do that deliberately, I just don't have aircon, but hearing how it's actually like little things like that can actually help. It's almost like an extra form of mental training, because let's face it, like
facing the elements.
Yeah, say obviously if you did want to join something like SAS, like SAS, or just anything that requires mental toughness, like like obviously anything that will make you physically tough will also make you mentally tough, because it's hard to do something that's physically hard without being mentally tough. But little things that can add to that, because there's different types of stress, isn't that? So that could be temperature, that could be getting stuck in a bog, that could be getting lost. Do you know what I mean? These little mini stresses, and then like how you handle that, and almost like getting used to that. That in itself is almost like a form of training. When you then add on to that the fact that you were like just hiking over hard terrain for hours, it's a pretty cool morning, really. Do you know what I mean? Certainly, it makes you a better human being, I reckon.
Yeah.
Adds character.
Oh, man. I wish Meg could see it that way.
I'm sure she wouldn't in the long run. I think she just probably wouldn't want to admit it to you because, let's face it, you really are the reason why you guys got stuck.
Yeah, and especially because she was saying,
yeah, let's do that. And you were like, no, let's go over there.
Yeah, and especially because it was like, she was like, I literally knew in my heart that we were going the completely wrong way, but you just, because I got it wrong as well. Like, where I thought we were parked was completely different to where we were parked. Like, in my head, we usually park this one place, and I thought we were parked there, so I was heading for there. But Meg knew we weren't, but she didn't know that I thought we were heading for there. She was like, no, it's wrong. We need to go that way. And then when I realised that I was heading for the wrong car park, I was like, oh, that's why you wanted to go that way. And she's like, yeah. And I'm like, oh yeah, I was heading the completely wrong place. And then she's like, for God's sake, even more angry, But I am a bit
It is really fun to go on
that.
an adventure though. I mean, luckily, I have never once got lost on a hike. Like, I love hiking, and especially before Evie was born, I don't do it as much as I used to, but I used to go out on like 3 hikes a week. And I would go on some crazy ones as well. Do you know what I mean? But I bet just sort of like trusting my internal like sat nav, I guess. Yeah. But like, I never ever once got lost. I've been a couple of times where I almost got lost, but then almost like trusted, like, okay, I reckon like from just almost like common sense that like that way will take me back, if I go far enough, will be somewhere I recognise. And then I'd come out, I'd be going through this crazy terrain, and then I'd come out on a path that would be like somewhere random in like Ramscombe. Yeah. Or do you know what I mean? And then I'd be like, oh, but it's so weird because up until that point, you feel like you're in the middle of nowhere. Yeah. And then it's almost like a bit trippy when suddenly you just come out of somewhere and you're like,
here.
Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
It's almost like you've got reference.
I think obviously like everyone's probably experienced that at some point in their life. Do you know what I mean? But it's quite cool, isn't it? I really like to, I really want to do more like super, super long hikes because I remember one big one that we went on, wasn't it? Was the one where like
from the deer park to
St Audrey's to Holford. That was fun. To be honest, it didn't take us as long as I thought it would. I thought that would be like almost like a half-day hike, but I remember it was we did it in about like 3 hours or something.
Yeah.
And that was like with like sitting down and chilling out, and we had like some food and stuff. I remember I took like some boiled eggs and some.
And I remember it started like tipping it down with rain by when we got for Holford. We just sat under a tree.
Yeah, we sat under a tree for a bit, didn't we?
Yeah, and we were just chilling there
until it like
we had a coffee.
Yeah, until it backed off a little bit, and then I remember I just like put on some folk music and we were just chilling under the tree. Just like sat on our jackets and stuff, and mate, that was really nice. And I remember it actually, it was like really funny because we were like still off the beaten path, just like proper up in the middle of the trees, but we could see about, I don't know, like 50, 60 meters down, like completely downhill. We could see one of the little paths actually in like the Hodders Combe, you know, like actually a walking bit, like the actual like beaten paths. And I remember we just saw this like family there, and didn't we like make some like weird like fucking like Yeti calls or something like that? Just because there was like no way almost that they would be able to see us from there. Yeah. And we were like making like some weird like Yeti calls. Mate, I love doing stuff like that. Just like funny little pranks like that. Just I love the idea that someone would be like, what the hell was that? Yeah. And almost like that might be like a family story that was passed down for generations. And it was just us, just like
messing around,
just messing about under a tree. Yeah, because it was raining a bit. But yeah, that was really cool, man. I said that didn't take us very long, did it? I sort of planned out the thing is, I didn't know obviously exactly because I'd never done it before, like exactly how we'd get there. But I'd walked around St Audrey's Deer Park, and also I'd walked around Holford a lot, and I'd looked at it on a map beforehand, and obviously I could see where sort of, and you know, I essentially I think what you do is if you're looking at a map, we basically needed to head northwest from St Audrey's Deer Park. So that's basically all we did. There was no like set destination or
up and down hills and stuff. You know, it's very rolling hills, isn't it?
I remember we walked through St Andrew's Deer Park, and then it was like we found like almost like this little stream, and that I was probably after about half an hour into the walk, and then we sat down by the stream,
had some boiled eggs.
Yeah, had some boiled eggs and stuff, and then sort of from that point, we almost like walked sort of like north of there. And then that sort of took us right up onto the top of the hills, and from there we could almost like see this like really almost like foresty bit.
So
and
that's probably Holford.
Just pretty much just like knew that was Holford, because obviously Holford is a very foresty bit.
Yeah.
As opposed to like as opposed to like the rolling hills, I suppose they're called, aren't they, of Somerset, which was just obviously just more just like hills and hills and hills. So yeah, that was actually like pretty straightforward, but it was a really nice walk, and it was nice as well because I think when you go like a really big walk like that, you're obviously because it's not like Hoddescombe or Ramscombe or St George's Deer Park, you're going on these like almost like connective routes that are obviously a lot less travelled.
Was it a path? Was there a path?
I think there were like a couple of little paths, like, do you know what I mean? But obviously they're not anywhere near as frequented, because I guess, you know, lots of people like going out for walks and stuff, but I guess there's a difference between like in sort of to go on a half an hour walk around Ramscombe,
and like circular walks people normally go on because they park to get back to their car.
And let's face it, like a circular walk around Ramscombe or Holford or St George's Deer Park can take you like 45 minutes as it is. So I guess you have to be like a bit more into it to be willing to say go through all of that and then go on this other, you know, walk, basically hike for another 2 hours across just like hills and ravines and stuff, and then into another one and then have to walk through that, because we went in two cars, didn't we? We took your car and my car. I can't remember. I think we parked your car at Hoddescombe, which is in Holford, and then you jumped in my car, and then we drove to St George's Deer Park and parked it there.
It's a good way to do it, isn't it? Like, do a big walk like that.
Yeah, it's like, because obviously some walks you don't necessarily want to then turn around and go all the way back.
Exactly.
And it was obviously, even though it did take us a lot quicker than we planned, I think it took us about like 3 to 4 hours. And I remember was like slow roasting like a lamb, like at home, like a big lamb leg and stuff. So that was like real nice afterwards. Do you know what I mean? We went back to
and you feel like you really deserve the food after you've done a big trek like that or something, you know.
Man, and that's actually another thing, man. I think it's a really good point. I think like, and anybody that's like, you know, I think probably plays like sport or just like really loves working out or loves hiking or anything that's like physically arduous will definitely understand this. Like, food is so much more enjoyable if you like earn your food.
Yeah.
That's
100%.
Like if you just sit around eating all day, I almost feel it's the same thing.
Don't taste as good.
It's almost like the same thing as having like a porn addiction.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's more becomes a psychological issue. Like, you're addicted to the psychological stimulation you get from that cheap high. Which is like, you can see why it is addictive. I guess it's the same reason why people love, like, you know, why people get in, you know, like addictive personalities get into, like, you know, could be like drugs, could be anything. But like, it's almost like it's like, what can I do now to give myself a pleasant experience? Maybe it'll be eat my favorite packet of crisps, or, you know, whack one out. Do you know what I mean? It's like that same thing, isn't it? It's like, it's almost like a cheap way of feeling good instantly. But yeah, if you go out on like a freaking 4-hour hike, man, and then eat your food, or if you're like getting pretty hungry, but then you decide to have an hour and a half brutal workout, and then eat your food, like, then
it tastes different, man. Mate, it's a whole different experience.
10 times better.
Yeah.
And even like the way that your stomach receives it, I swear. You know, when it feels like it's almost like a blank canvas.
Yeah.
And then it's like the feeling of filling that up when you're like, you can feel your body's like screaming for like sustenance and nutrients. That feels good, man. That feels really good.
That's the way to do it.
That's the way to do it.
I
really want to plan them some
man.
Like,
you need to come down to Dartmoor and that, because there's some beautiful ones there as well.
Even though it's not that far, really. I don't think I've ever been for like unless it was like when I was really young and it was just like a little one with my parents or something. Like, I don't think I've like been for a hike in Dartmoor. Well, definitely not for like a big one.
Because what there is, because the River Dart and everything as well, you've got all of these beautiful walks along the river. But they look magical because there's all these like massive stones and that just like in the middle of the river. So it looks all like with all moss all over them and stuff. So we've been on some little treks like that and just think like it looks like a fairyland or something, you know. But just it's crazy how vast it is as well.
Is it Dartmoor where the Wistman's Woods is?
Yeah,
because that's like a really legendary wood,
mate,
isn't it?
it's so cool, and it's a Wistman Woods. It's a small wood of really old oak trees, but they're these
All
weird,
covered in
weird
frickin'
like
moss.
decrepit, like funny looking short like oak trees that have all these weird like branches and everything, and huge rocks in there as well. So you can sit on these outcrops of rocks that are within the middle of the forest.
And obviously it's quite misty.
It's all covered in moss.
Yeah, and it's quite
like,
misty, isn't it? I guess that's one of
Yeah.
the things that the moisture is what grows the moss.
Mm,
But really
that's
interesting
really
and unique.
beautiful one.
I know I've got like a book, and I think it's like 20 most magical locations in the UK, and that's one of them.
Yeah, I've been there twice now. I went once with Carmen, and I went once with like Meg and her brother. But yeah, it was really cool, and just like sitting there and just like all the birds coming and everything. You know, it's quite peaceful and just.
I know that like back in the days of Yonder, I know that there used to be like a lot of like folklore and stuff about the Wistman's Woods. I think it used to have like a supernatural connotation. Like people would think that there was something very mystical and supernatural about the Wistman's Woods.
I find it funny because when we parked at a completely different pace away from Wistman's Woods and like walked over rolling hills until we saw it and got to it, and like when we were getting close to it, we were like, well, that must be it. But it's this funny just little patch. It's sort of like you see all like the woods all around, all of the hills and everything all around, and a bit like Holford when we seen that, and you see a patch of woodland. It's very much like that with Wistman's Woods, and it's just this weird outcrop patch of funny oak trees just in the middle of nowhere. So it's like, what? Why did they not carry on? Like, why?
Yeah,
Did they, why
I know what you mean. It's something obviously to do with like the geography or something, isn't it? It's something to do with the terrain. Like
I think there is a little river at the bottom of it as well, so maybe it's to do with the water and stuff as well.
It's so interesting, isn't it? How it's just such a unique. Have we got it all linked up?
Yeah.
So
oh yeah, look at that.
For anybody that doesn't know,
That's it.
I think it would be
It's
especially
so
interesting
cool.
to anybody that's maybe. I mean, predominantly, I think all of our listeners are from the UK, but I think there's a couple people from abroad. Well, I know there is because on my Spotify statistics and stuff, it does say that there's a couple of like people from the United States and Australia and stuff that listen. But I think
shout out to you guys.
Yeah, man, to our friends from abroad. But yeah, I think especially
Look how cool that looks.
to people that are from abroad that aren't so familiar with the UK, it's a very unique place. It's like the sort of like woods. I don't think there's probably another woods like it in the
See
world.
what I mean? Those little weird little trees, how pointy they are and everything, and almost like
it's very spindly.
Yeah, spindly.
Like you can see why, say, if you were some frickin' like Celt or Viking or Saxon like 1,000 years ago,
You'd be like, ooh,
if you were walking through there, especially if it was like
this place?
if it was like a cold winter and it was like about 4:30, so it's getting dark, but it's not fully dark yet, and there's just mist everywhere, and you just hear like
yeah,
from like the crows and stuff. That would be creepy.
especially if it was like misty, like you
Look,
say.
that's like
Oh,
got
look
cool.
at that.
Someone's like done some art on it.
Yeah.
Well, I assume either that or it's some crazy voodoo. But like, yeah, it looks
huge
like
rocks as well.
Do you know what it reminds me of a little bit as well?
What's that?
Fangorn Forest.
Oh yeah,
Which is
yeah.
also interesting because obviously, I don't know, maybe even based on it, because I know that Tolkien based obviously a lot of the Lord of the Rings on like
Different parts
England,
of it,
or on
yeah.
like Britain, and obviously other cultures all around the world and stuff. But Fangorn Forest is on the edge of like the plains of Rohan, isn't it?
Yeah,
That's like where Merry and Pippin escape to, and then they find the Ents.
yeah.
And obviously, this is on the edge of Dartmoor, so that's quite interesting, isn't it? Like,
That's
look
cool.
at that.
Look how misty it is.
That's what I was saying. Like, on like a cold, like dark, like say like 4:30 on like in like a December, like day, like a cold day. Like that looks like supernaturally charged, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That's beautiful, man. Fair shout to whoever that photographer is. That's beautiful.
Yeah, really beautiful.
That's cool.
Got the gas mask on.
Yeah. But yeah, what an interesting place. I'm just gonna quickly look up a minute, like mythology or something, because as I said, I know that there's like a lot of interesting like myths and stuff about the Wistman's Woods. There's like that like little creatures would live there, like supernatural entities and stuff. So
Legends.
for anybody that's like me and just like loves that stuff, I just thought it'd be quite interesting, So let's see what it says here. Twisted branches tucked away in a valley on Dartmoor, Wistman's Woods could be a threshold to another world. It is a rare example of a stunted oak forest.
That's it, stunted oak. Because they're all quite small. This is weird.
It's like the equivalent of a pygmy elephant.
A pygmy goat.
with trees growing no more than 20 foot above your head. It's thought to be the last remnants of a forest that once covered the entirety of Dartmoor. Wow.
So it was bigger.
That's amazing. With this particular patch being around 500 years old at 9 acres, it's weird that it's only 500 years old. I would have just thought it would have been like ancient. But anyway, at 9 acres, it's a wonder why such a small area has been left untouched. The place is shrouded in myths and legends, from mystical druids to the evil wished hounds of the devil himself. When you visit this Tolkien-esque forest, it's easy to see why. That's funny, that's what I just said. The Sacred Druids Grove. The early 19th century writings of Eliza Bray discuss Wistman's Woods as one of the last remaining ancient druid groves. Apparently, they conducted rituals here beneath the oaks, carving spirals and symbols. That's cool, because I saw that. Into the moss that you can still see today. Wow, so those are actually original.
Yeah, and
from
they're
the
carvings.
Druids. That is amazing. I thought like somebody had done that as like a recreation in homage, but that sounds like that's actually originals. It takes little imagination to see why this is seen as such a spiritual place. Wild flowers cling to every rock and branch, birds flitter between the leaves, and the rush of the river can be heard in the valley below. It's peaceful and incredibly beautiful. The Wished Hounds. The charm of Wistman's Woods seems to belong to the daylight. Come nightfall, the woods turn from sacred sanctuaries into kennels for wished hounds, who hunt across the moors at night in search of lonely travellers, followed by their leader, the Wild Huntsman. The dogs are said to have yellow eyes, huge fangs, and a howl that echoes along the misty moors when they are chasing prey. The Wild Hunt is an ancient legend with roots in primal pagan beliefs. Today, it still lingers in this lonely corner of Dartmoor. Oh, it says ghostly hauntings as well. Just north of Wistman's Wood lies the Lich Way, an old procession route that crosses the moors to the parish of Lidford. Before cars, residents would have to take this path to church on a Sunday, and for important events such as weddings and funerals, coffins would need to be carried along this route before being buried at the parish churchyard. It's not surprising that this route also became known as the Way of the Dead. Whoa. How epic is that? That reminds me a little bit. You know, like, again, in Tolkien, you know, there's like, it's not. I don't think it's not called the Way of the. It might even be called the Way of the Dead. You know where like the freaking like ghosts of men live. That like Aragorn goes to recruit, and he's like, only the heir of Gondor can command me. Oh yeah. And that line is broken, and then Aragorn's like, it's been remade. And it's like really epic.
Yeah, man.
Or is it called the City of the Dead? I think it might be called the City of the Dead. But still, I wonder if that's like something that he took inspiration from. This pretty dark history has led to tales of ghostly apparitions along the Lich Way, especially near Wistman's Wood. Do you know what this is making me think, Drew? Do you remember like last week we were talking and I said like every now and again it'd be cool if we did like almost like a little expedition, just almost like with a GoPro, just because it'd be like fun to upload to like you know YouTube and stuff. Maybe we should do one, like, because obviously it's really close to you as well. So maybe I could like stay at yours.
Yeah,
and
man,
we could go on
sure.
we could go on like a nice big hike, but then maybe like stay literally until it's dark. Like make an adventure of it, like take some food, or maybe even like
camp out.
Yeah, maybe even like do something like that, and then like take some stuff so we can like cook up there or something.
Yeah, 100%.
And yeah, maybe we could like. You go to like the Way of the Dead and all this stuff, and
there's so much.
See if
up
we can
there,
find
man.
the Wish Towns.
Yeah,
and the White. And the
I don't know
of the
much about it, but like there's so many places like that up there on Dartmoor as well.
Says that there's like legends of pixies here as well. There's a lot of debate about the origins of the name Wistman's Woods. Some people believe it ties to the Druid legend, which would mean wise man's wood. The word wis is related to the Saxon word to know, with Wistman meaning wood of the wise man. I love stuff like that.
Yeah.
Man. So cool. So
etymology is beautiful.
Yeah, etymology. What a cool subject. A more popular opinion, considering the wood's location, is that it derives from the Devonshire word wisht, which means pixie-led or haunted. Dartmoor is notorious for its pixies. I didn't know that.
No,
That's cool. Much like the Isle of Man. Who seem to haunt every tour and outcrop, from leading lost travellers astray to causing cars to crash along the empty roads. They have a mischievous reputation. If the name is correct, then Wistman's Wood is one place where you can surely expect to be pixie-led if you aren't careful. That's so cool. What did it say? Please remember that you don't go into the wood. Do that and you'll kill the moss. Fair enough. All right,
Linda.
All right, Linda. Fucking buzzkill.
All right, Karen.
Yeah, Karen. That reminded me they were hearing about those wish towns, as they were called there. I can't remember if I talked about it before, either to you just in general or on the pod, but you remember? I remember like hearing a while back. It was like this. There's this village in England somewhere, and they had this like old tale about how because one of the sort of like the famous creatures of sort of like British cryptozoology. One of my favourite subjects, cryptozoology, which I think is really cool. So for anybody that doesn't know what cryptozoology is, obviously zoology is like the study of animals. Cryptozoology is like anything that could be real, but science hasn't documented. So that obviously could mean anything
Cryptids.
like cryptids like Bigfoot or any like Loch Ness monster. It could be anything like that. But there's like so many all across the world, and every country has like their own sort of like set of cryptids, don't they? But one of the most like common ones in the UK is like the black dog or Black Shuck. There's obviously a Darkness song, isn't there, called Black Shuck, and it's like
that's what it's yes.
yeah that's what it's about. Which is actually a really cool song as well. But and they've got different names across the UK. Like I know that in the Isle of Man, obviously because the Manx have their own language originally. Obviously they speak English now predominantly, but it's called like the Moddy Doo. And stuff like that. But yeah, black dogs are like one of the main cryptids of the UK. And there's like different sort of beliefs about them, but a lot of people think that they're almost like like demons. So usually it's very dark. Like they're not friendly. It's like demons taking the apparition of like a dog.
I can imagine like a black wolf kind of looking dog like thing,
Yeah. And they're usually portrayed as having like massive black dogs with like red eyes. But there's like a village. This is what's really cool though. This story. I can't remember I'll look it up in a minute. Like actually try and find out the name of the village and stuff. But there's this village in the UK that's like that. Almost like the thing that is like the village is famous for is that they had like a myth that there was this like time like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years ago that like on a Sunday while everyone was at the church that this like freaking black dog like attacked the freaking church like ripped down the freaking doors and like killed loads of people in the church.
What?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Before like it was eventually like killed itself, but apparently it took like freaking like loads and loads of men and stuff to kill it, and by that point it had like killed it ripped to shred like 7 people or something.
That's
like that.
crazy, man.
And then everyone obviously thought it was like a made up story, just like a myth or whatever, like a myth and legend. And then I can't remember when it was like 5-10 years ago or something. In the cemetery around the church, they found like the bones of this like abnormally freaking large hound, and they were like, freaking hell, like
this was it.
And in like the legend, it's like they said that after the dog was like killed, he was like buried in the grounds of the church and stuff, and they freaking found it.
Whoa.
So it must almost like be like a real story.
That is mad.
And it's like this like abnormally large dog.
That is crazy, man.
Let me quickly look it up because like it sounds like this is like made up, but I guarantee you this is true. Large. Let me see what to look up. Like large black. Would help if I was actually typing. Large black.
Careful your next word there, man.
Black peni. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen. We're always lowering the tone, aren't we? Hey, buddy. Attack church. That sounds like a bad way to put it. Attacking church. Hopefully that'll do. Let's see if it comes up. There it is, the Black Shuck. Yeah, so let's have a look at this.
1577.
The Black Shuck. So in Norfolk.
Suffolk.
Yeah, you used to live in Suffolk, didn't you?
Yeah.
In Norfolk, Suffolk, Lincolnshire, and in northern parts of Essex, a black dog known as a Black Shuck, also Old Shuck or Shock, is regarded as a malevolent, or it just says regarded as malevolent, with stories ranging from terrifying people or killing them outright to being a portent of death to themselves or a person close to the victim. There are tales that in 1577 it attacked the church in the market town of Bungay, killing 2 people and appearing on the same day at the church in the nearby village of Blithburgh, taking the lives of another 3 and leaving claw marks which remain today. So I didn't know there was claw marks. In the parish of Overstrand is a lane known as Shuck's Lane from its frequent appearances there. According to urban legends, if you spot where it was just seen... Wait a minute. If you spot where it was just seen... bloody Wikipedia, it's just not written very well, is it? You may find scorch marks and the smell of brimstone. Hellfire and brimstone.
What is brimstone?
To be honest, I don't know, but I know the saying like hellfire and brimstone, you know?
Yeah.
They say like hellfire and brimstone. Well, I'll look that up in a minute.
Click brimstone. Because you can click it, can't you?
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Sulfur. Oh, that makes
okay,
sense.
yeah.
That makes sense.
And then go back.
So I guess like the smell of sulfur. Thanks, man. So I guess like the thanks for that direction. Yeah, I get. Yeah, they guess that they say, don't they, that like the smell of sulfur could be like means that there's a demon nearby. Church, dog. I want to find out more about that.
The black dog, welcome to Bungay.
The Suffolk coast. The legend of the Bungay black dog. Well, the thing that's annoying is that I know that there was an article saying that it had actually been found, like the dog. So this is what I want to find out that. That's annoying me now. I really want to find it.
Put found.
Yeah. His eyes. Is this it? Oh, it could be. Male. Is this the skeleton of the legendary devil dog, Black Shuck, who terrorized 16th century East Anglia? Folklore tells of a 7-foot hellhound with flaming eyes. According to folklore, Black Shuck.
Male dog, 200 pounds.
Yeah, see, so that's freaking massive for a dog, man.
Yeah.
That's like a dog that weighs as much as me, almost.
What?
That would be like bigger than heavier than you.
Yeah, that's mad.
When you think about like
for a dog.
even like a let's say like a German Shepherd. Like, what's the average weight? I'll put in like average weight of a German Shepherd.
Or a Tibetan Mastiff. They're huge.
Oh,
dogs,
I wouldn't be
aren't they?
surprised if they're about that size. Yeah, but let's think like a German.
What, 200 pounds?
I don't know. Let's have a look in a minute. Average weight of
male
a German. Average weight of a male. Average weight of a German Shepherd. Yeah, see, so like a male German Shepherd is only between 30 and 40 kg.
Yeah, that's mental. So like
200 pounds is like
over 4 times.
No, it wouldn't be over 4 times.
Yeah, it's 200 pounds. Oh, sorry, no.
200 pounds would be like around 100 kilos, like under 100 kilos or something like that. But so like way over twice the size of a German Shepherd. And if you think, right, imagine like a German Shepherd that was like a really ill-tempered, nasty German Shepherd. Like that would be scary, man, if that was attacking you. Now imagine something over twice the size of that. It
gets really frustrating on walks. Like I take Rupert for walks every day up on the moors, and you'll get dogs, and sometimes their instinct is just to go for your dog. Like, do you know what I mean? Like,
mate, that would trigger me.
It really annoys me, like all the time. But even that with like a medium-sized dog, you'd think like, it's quite a crazy situation, just all going for him and everything. So I can imagine with a massive one.
That would stress me out, I reckon.
Yeah.
That would bother me. Yeah, so even a Tibetan Mastiff, it says this is, a male will get between 41 and 68 kgs. So even a Tibetan Mastiff isn't the size of this dog that's been dug up. And Tibetan Mastiffs are massive, you know?
They're pretty big, aren't they? What about Great Dane?
Yeah, let's have a look. Average weight. Now we're just like random. Like everyone's just finding out all this stuff about dogs.
Yeah, I like Tibetan Mastiffs. I think they look well cute.
I really like Great Danes. I think if I was going to have a dog, I'd maybe want some.
Really?
Yeah, man. It's a cool dog, but they're like quite like nice and peaceful as well, aren't they?
Yeah.
A male can get up to 90 kilos. So
nearly then.
So that's almost the size. Yeah. But they're beastly, aren't they? Like, look at that compared to that woman.
They don't actually live that long.
I'm not surprised.
To other dogs because of their hearts.
Look at that. I mean, that's not a Great Dane. That's an Irish Wolfhound, but still,
Irish
Wolfhounds
Wolfhounds look awesome as well.
That almost looks like a werewolf or something. Do you know what I mean? You can see why, like, a legend of a werewolf would come about. If you see something like that, you imagine like the fact that everyone back in the day used to be like pretty much drunk all the time.
Especially if it was like standing up against a tree or something, put his paws up on a tree and they'd see it, they'd be like, "Whoa, there's a werewolf."
Yeah, and as I said, but back in the day, people were pretty much like drunk from the moment they got up and went to bed. It's the
safest way to drink, wasn't it? Like to drink water. It's safer than to drink the river water. Was to drink booze
because it was clean
beer.
So people would just imagine being really drunk. And then imagine like it's a dark night and you just see a freaking massive like Irish Wolfhound. Like, you'd be like, what?
If I had a big enough like house with like massive gardens and that, I'd love to have an Irish Wolfhound or something.
Yeah, that would be cool. Just ride it around. But let's get back to this skeleton anyway. So yeah, man, they belong to a male dog. So
I'm surprised that they can't actually figure out what
test it was. And make it was like breed. Yeah.
Make
it was a Ford Mondeo. It's because we were talking about cars earlier, man. But yeah, it's pretty mad, isn't it, really, that they've just found archaeological remains belonging to a male dog that they thought was standing at 7 feet tall and weighing 200 pounds. Experts are currently carrying out radiocarbon dating tests on the animal. That's nuts, though, isn't it? That this is literally the area where there are these legends of this being like. To me, that just makes it like amazing, because I think you hear a lot of myths and legends like that, and you obviously just think they're not really actually grounded in facts.
It's a dire wolf.
It is like a dire wolf, man, isn't it? But then when you actually find something like this, you're like, what? Like on the place, they found the remains of a 200-pound, 7 foot tall dog. And as we just saw, that's like, you know, maybe anywhere between sort of 5 and 10 kilograms, even heavier than like a freaking Great Dane.
Than the biggest Great Danes.
Yeah, which are like one of the very biggest dogs on the planet, aren't they? That is crazy, man. I think that's so cool. Yeah, yesterday, 500 years after Black Shuck first went on the prowl, archaeologists were examining the skeleton of a 7-foot-long dog unearthed in the remains of an ancient abbey.
Whoa.
It was discovered a few miles from 2 churches where Black Shuck is said to have killed worshippers.
Yeah, that's mental.
Killed worshippers during an almighty thunder. Cool that it happened during a thunderstorm as well. Well, obviously not for the people that got ripped apart by this freaking massive dog. But, an almighty thunderstorm in August 1577. That sounds like you could make a good movie out of that. Just imagine like you're like building up like the story of it, and then there's just in the scene there's just a fat thunderstorm, and there's just this dog, and you're all like
on a rampage.
You're in this like, church, and you've boarded up the freaking door and the windows and that, and it just somehow just breaks in and just starts killing everyone. Like, okay, it was 3 people in the church, but it said it killed 2 people like somewhere else in it as well. Wow. What's more, it appears to have been buried in a shallow grave at precisely the same time as Shuck is said to have been on the loose, primarily around Suffolk and the East Anglia region. That's so cool.
I wonder how they killed it.
First, the legend, the beast's most celebrated attack began at Holy Trinity Church, Blythburgh.
It's crazy that it's at the churches as well, isn't it?
Yeah, it just gives it like a supernatural edge, I guess. A clap of thunder burst open the church doors, and a hairy black devil dog came snarling in. It ran through the congregation, killing a man and a boy, and causing the church steeple to fall through the roof. Scorch marks still visible on the church doors are purported to have come from the Shuck's claws as it fled. Local verse records the events thus: all down the church in the midst of fire, the hellish monster flew, and passing onward to the choir, he many people slew. I like the fact that it's so eloquently written.
Bars, bruv.
Yeah, man. Spitting. Next stop was 12 miles away in Bungay, where 2 worshippers were killed at St. Mary's Church. One was left shriveled like a drawn purse as he prayed. Wow, that's pretty epic, isn't it?
Like my balls.
Yeah, man, like an old man's ball bag. In his 1577 pamphlet, A Strange and Terrible Wonder, the Reverend Abraham Fleming told how the Satan-like beast came running all along down the body of the church with great swiftness and incredible haste among the people in a visible form and shape, wringing the necks of 2 parishioners as they knelt. Spookily, a later work reveals, although his howling makes the hearer's blood run cold, his footfalls make no sound.
Oh, can't hear him coming. But you can hear his roar.
I do love tales like that, man. I do love tales like that. So cool. So freaking cool. I mean, let's face it, probably wasn't the devil. But even just like the idea that there was just this like almost like freakishly almost like mutant like massive dog, like mutated massive dog with that a serious attitude problem was just like running amok. That in itself is like, that's pretty wild, isn't it?
Yeah, it's crazy,
cool.
man.
We're going to take a break in a minute, folks, but we'll be back in a second. Oh yeah, got a little treat for you for everyone that's listening on the radio. I thought it'd be cool just to play you a little bit of the War of the Worlds. This is so cool.
You will open Pandora's box many times in your life. No, we probably really shouldn't open that box. Look, I've got one rule. Here.
Open your mind. Open your mind.
Open your mind. Yeah, welcome back, everyone. Me and Drew were just talking about cool cities in the UK, and I was saying about how I love York, and Drew was saying he wants to go to York as well.
I really want to go to York.
Yeah, you're trying to convince your missus, aren't you? Because she's been a couple of times before, but that was like before she was with you. But, Yorkie Wraps, for those that don't know, For people that haven't explored the north too much, in York, there's like several shops where you can just get like a Yorkie pud wrap, and it's literally like, imagine like, you know, like going to a kebab shop and just getting like a kebab wrap, whatever. So like, you know, you go in there's like a massive Yorkie pud, and then they'll be like, what meat do you want, love? And then you can like pick between, you know, like lamb, pork, beef, chicken or whatever, and then they'll put that in, and then you can basically customize, you know, it's a roast dinner in a wrap, but the wrap is a freaking giant Yorkie pud.
Sounds so good.
And then they'll ask you what sauce you want, you know, so you could have, obviously if it's like pork, you could have freaking like mustard or apple sauce or whatever, or if it's lamb, mint sauce, whatever, or just gravy. Completely customize it however you want. It's exactly the same as you would just anywhere with your roast dinner. And then they'll wrap it up, and then they put it in like a grill, compress it all obviously until the Yorkie's like, you know, cooked and wrapped and then hard. And then you just got a freaking Yorkie pud, freaking a roast dinner
wrap,
a portable roasty. Yeah, and I love that, man. I remember like the last time I had one, we just went and sat by York Minster Cathedral and just sat there on the green. And it was just amazing, man. It was just freaking, it was just so good.
Is it one of the biggest cathedrals as well?
Second biggest one in Europe, biggest one in the UK. And it's like staggeringly big, absolutely staggeringly big. And it's like, it's not very often you feeling like in awe of a building. I think obviously nowadays we're so used to skyscrapers. Yeah, we're so used to just like big buildings and stuff, and like nothing seems too grandiose to us. But I think when you're next to something like York Minster Cathedral, it's like whoa. Like you can,
especially in the time of when it was built. You can imagine the people just being completely unaware.
You would have thought like, oh, that was built by God. Like only by the will of God has that something like that being built. I mean, crazy, but it is almost like a bit sad in a way, isn't it? Because you think about the architecture back then, and it's like so impressive and so beautiful as well. Like it's like imposing and mighty, but also sort of like a spectacle and beautiful. And you think about like sort of like cheap houses that are built nowadays, where you could just put your fist through the wall.
New houses, man.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
All the new houses that are like that are being built and
copy and paste houses.
And I think, you know, bring back some of that beauty.
I think everything the emphasis on everything nowadays is like do it quick.
Yeah.
But it's like it's hard to do something super quick and also do something really well. You know, just ask the ladies, mate. Just ask the ladies. You know.
Yeah, it needs to be built to last.
It's hard to fulfill something in 2 minutes. You know.
Yeah, man.
But yeah, I think, you know, you go to like a nice little village in the Cotswolds or something, and you see like, you know, you're the little villages, and they look like they've been like crafted for the people. By the people. And I think regardless of where you're from in the world, I think you could be like from like some remote like village in Japan, and you would go to the Cotswolds and you'd be like, this is a beautiful village.
Oh, beautiful.
Or, you know, conversely, you know, you could be from, you know, some little village in the Cotswolds, and then you could go to Japan and you could see some of these like, you know, these nice wooden structures, like ancient freaking like samurai, you know, structures and that, and you'd be like, this is also beautiful, because they were built with the idea, like, you know, these are almost like, it's like almost like symbolic. These buildings are for us, but they need to be interwoven into the land, and it's not about like just like flattening the land so we can build this.
Yeah, lots more meaning into like the whole process behind it.
And I think it makes such a difference now. You know, the amount of like, you know, housing estates that are being built, just like, I mean, everywhere across the UK. Let's face it, it's not even just like, it's like everywhere, regardless of even if you live in the sticks. There's a new one being built in Stiggersey at the moment. You can't really go anywhere, can you, without new housing estates? It's funny, isn't it? I remember talking before, I can't remember who it was to, but it's like, you know, when we were kids, so where we record this, we're in like Bridgewater in Somerset. So like the town that's like closest to us, just north of us, is called Taunton, quite a famous town. And when we were younger, there was more of a noticeable like separation, between Bridgewater and Taunton. You know, you get to the end of what is called Taunton Road in Bridgie, you get Huntworth Roundabout, and then you can either go the A38 north or M5 north to Taunton, and then it's like 10 miles or something, isn't it, north of that. And then there'd be like a couple of little villages in between Taunton and Bridgewater on the A38, most notably like North Petherton. And then you'd eventually get to Taunton, whereas now it's almost like, because they've built so many housing estates onto the end just past Taunton Road, and because they're doing it in Taunton as well, I don't know if it's called Bridgewater Road, probably is. Yeah, but like, basically the A38, the Taunton side, as if you're going towards Bridgewater. They're building so many there as well. It almost just makes me think like, well, soon it's just all just going to be linked up. Like North Petherton's going to be like swallowed in this like mass of like Bridgewater and Taunton. It's like, are they just going to like merge into like one?
It's like the A38 is like a new river. It's like they just keep building houses along the edge of it.
It's going to be like Coruscant in Star Wars. It's like Coruscant is just this city, this planet in Star Wars. It's just like one massive city.
Oh yeah.
And it's just like, but like, it's pretty mad, isn't it?
Mm.
But I do think that's crazy. But I think it does sort of cheapen everything. I know there's like like in Stagursey at the moment, at the bottom of our garden, like there's like a little stream, and then past that it's just sort of like fields.
Yeah.
And you can just see all the way to the Quantocks.
They're not building on those fields, are they?
No, but I mean, there's like the locals have been like opposing it for like years and years and years, but they have they've been trying to like build houses there. But the thing is, like, think, man, obviously you've been in my garden. That how much would that just like ruin?
Oh yeah,
not
100%.
just the view, but almost the vibe.
Yeah,
because when you're in the back of my garden,
it's just fields for miles.
It's luscious, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, you obviously like you if you had like supervision, you probably would see the A39 road to Minehead, because the at the back of my garden, it's like facing towards the Quantock Hills, so you can maybe just about see like Stowey, like Nether Stowey. And it just, you can't really see it, but you know it's there. Do you know what I mean? Because that's obviously just like, you know it's over there. But obviously what you really see more is just like the Quantock Hills and like trees and stuff. But it's really nice to think that there's just like several miles of just like field upon field upon field. And that you can just see the Quantocks in different distance. If at the end of my garden there was just like a little stream and then just freaking loads of houses.
Yeah.
And then, you know what I mean? It would just ruin it. And it would make it so much like louder and everything, you know? I don't want to be hearing like some freaking couple having an argument at the end of my garden, or like their dog barking, or freaking.
There's something really beautiful just about space, isn't there? Like where you do have, where you've got some space, you can see around you. It's like, I feel like that's a more natural environment for us as humans to thrive in. You know, like, because it like going into cities and massively built up areas and that. It just doesn't feel as nice as when you go out on these nice big walks and that. And that's what I'm loving about Devon as well. Like where we are at the moment, you're kind of in it, but you're kind of out of it as well. You're so close to all these things, like these lovely walks and that. And it's like, I just feel way more peaceful in an environment like that.
I think it affects your mood, your happiness so much. Like I know we're the
even
same
subconsciously. Like you think, why am I feeling a bit frustrated at the moment? Oh, it's all these cars.
I know we're the same in this regard, man. But I need my space, man.
Yeah,
I need my space.
100%.
I know that obviously, like, don't get me wrong. Obviously, there's like a side to me. I mean, obviously, it comes in handy, like really, like doing like a podcast, speak on the radio and that. Like, I can talk for England. Don't get me wrong. But I'm actually like a very private person, and like I like my space, and often I don't really enjoy socializing like a lot. You know what I mean? Like I think
a lot of people can be like full of drama a lot, and the more you're integrated in just people's day-to-day lives, when there's a lot of you, there's a lot of dramas. I know. I noticed that when I was living at the flat before, and just that whole group of people all in there. It was almost this like funny little community where there were some busybodies and stuff, and it's like, I just can't be bothered with any of that. I want my own space. Everyone's kind of just leave me alone, get on with what I want to do, and just be like,
even on my street in Stagursey, man, you think like, you know, it's hard to get more sort of rural than Stagursey. Do you know what I mean? I think anybody that's around Bridgewater Way knows there's like, you know, lots of jokes and stuff about Stagursey, and I tell them as well, because I'm not a Stagursey native, so you know, I do. There's an element, obviously I've moved there, you know, but so I do see the humour in all of those little like jokes and that they say about Stagursey, about, you know, inbred people and webbed feet and all that stuff. But and I tell you what, there is, and I don't mean this in a bad way, there is an element of there are like families in Stagursey that have lived there for like centuries, and there's certain family names, and they are like, it is almost like a bit weird, like a bit like, you know, a little bit Hills Have Eyes. There's an element of that, you know. I don't know, maybe about a quarter of the village where it just seems like their just family just dates back to like as far as they know in Stagursey. They're all just like, and we're just a bit freaking like illiterate and stuff. But like Stagursey is like their world. Yeah. You know, but even on like my street, man, as you were saying about that block of flats you used to live in, it's like, there's like the odd, most of our neighbours, like pretty much all of them are like sound real nice, you know. But there's that like one or two which just almost like trying to stick your nose in the business a little bit, almost like trying to create drama for the sake of creating drama.
Oh man, and that's so frustrating.
And it's just like, man, I think if it's like that there, I mean, I would hate to like be living in like a city or something and just it's just, they call it the rat race. Like even that word, it instantly just, that term just puts me off instantly. The rat race. I don't want to be part of the rat race. You know, it's
crazy how like when you are in nature and you're in that abundance of just space and just everything, it almost like resets you just in its just fundamental state. You know, like you can be just standing in it, a lot. And just breathe in the air, and it will actually just like calm your nervous system. You know, just from being there, But you can go in a city where it's like so built up and there's so much going on. There's so much stimulation for your brain, mind, and body.
You're breathing in all the bus fumes.
Yeah, it can do the same thing, but the opposite, and make you like closed and like
cranky.
And just
Makes
frustrated,
you almost
and,
like a bit stressed.
And it's just a natural thing, you know. Like
one of the most relaxing, nice things is going like in a proper hike in nature. You almost like feel like it's like hitting the reset button. And I think, you know, it's like I think things like social media in a way can almost be intertwined with that city living. What I mean by that is it's almost like an online version of like what I can imagine it'd be like living in like a real built up area. Like, you know, you'll go on, I mean, everyone can think of a couple of people, I'm sure, on your feed that's like this, you know. Let's face it, we all like, you know, have freaking all these people on like things like Facebook and stuff, and a lot of them, you know, they're not necessarily people that you will really like talk to much in your life. Let's face it, most people have actually like, you know, only a very, very close knit of people that you actually like talk to on a regular basis that you consider like real close to you. And the other like hundreds and hundreds of people on Facebook or whatever that you're like a part of your like quote unquote friends list are like just people that you somehow know
on the periphery.
But it's really weird, isn't it? You've got like some people, and I'm talking like fully grown men, and it's just their posts and that are just so dramatic. Just moaning and whinging and just almost like being like passive aggressive, and it's just like you just think, man, what the hell? Like,
drama.
Like, what the hell, dude? Like what? Man, I just I don't even know what to say about it. Do you know what I mean? But I just like see it and I just think, man, like you see people like that as well. Do you know what I mean? And they're always moaning. You can tell it's like quite like a negative thing. And you think, yeah, well, I'm not surprised. Do you know what I mean? That you're like that negative, because it's almost, you're creating a lot of this negativity and drama for yourself.
It.
I just start to think, like, you know, if you had like an issue in life, think, first thing I want to do is put a status on this on Facebook, moaning. And then there's all these people like, you okay, Han? You're doing a great job, bro. Don't worry about it, man. DM me. And it's just like, really?
Man, go take a walk in the woods.
Yeah, go take
Deep
a walk.
breaths.
Or like, I don't know, fricking go have like a workout, or write a song about it, or go for a hike, or have like a deep chat with actually like, you know, one of your close friends. Don't moan about it on Facebook. I know it might sound preachy, but it does like almost just you know, it's one of those things that you see and you almost just shake your head. And you think, what the hell, man? And to me, it's almost like a very unattractive thing as well, like a very unattractive, almost like quality.
Airing your dirty laundry on social media.
Yeah, I don't think it's not classy, is it?
No.
You know?
No.
It's not a classy thing to do, you know? It's quite hilarious, but like, yeah, it's not classy.
It's not spreading the positive vibes to your local community.
No, it's not though, is it?
No.
I just think, like, look, if you ever do have a problem with somebody or with something, like, probably like approach them directly, privately, between you, and sort it out as adults. Whatever it is, and like whatever you feel needs to be said or done, you can do that behind closed doors, like an adult.
Yeah.
You know, come to a conclusion, and then either at the end of the day, shake hands, or maybe not shake hands.
It takes more balls to do that than to write a post.
Than to write a post,
it?
And almost like you're trying to get, like, I don't know, the people that
because it's almost
on
like
your
like
side
you say, it's like
or
a cheap
whatever,
way of getting validation from lots of people, but you know, it's a way more risky way to actually go and have a conversation with that person and look at them face to face, because where the only person that's going to validate like what you think about that is that conversation between you two. And the other way, like in social media, you can just put some out and you get all these likes and all these other people that are trapped in that that thing of like wanting the validation, or you know, to just
they're jumping on the bandwagon,
and then it's like you just like. You can just jizz in the self-satisfaction of just like that everyone's liked your post.
Yeah. Or it's like joining like your like side, so to speak. Yeah, or like your clique. Yeah. Just like, and it's almost just like a soap opera thing, isn't it? It's like turning your own life into like EastEnders or something. And you can tell, I say some people live for it. They love it. You say the amount of comments some of these posts get and stuff, and then maybe even if they've made a post about somebody, then they'll comment about it, almost like bitching back at the person, and then all these other people are getting involved, and it's like, well, it's not that straightforward, Barry, because I know that you told Daniel the other day that you're not such a white knight yourself, and stuff like that. It's like, oh my god, seriously,
man, it's hilarious.
Yeah, I don't even know how we got into that, but yeah, no, I think like, you know, my point is that like, you know, even though I know for people that listen to this, they might think, you know, cool, like, you know, those guys, especially me, probably can like talk for England and stuff like that. And I can, don't get me wrong, but I'm also a very private person. And to be honest, if I had like a free evening, my probably wouldn't like choose to go out and like socialise. I mean, I'd probably do something probably do something either like on my own or with like a close friend or family member. You know, I would take more enjoyment from that. I can't remember even the original point of what we were saying about.
I think it was more like when we're going out for hikes and connecting and stuff like that. That's
we were also talking about buildings and stuff, and about like like when we about like choosing to live sort of in a more remote area compared to like built up areas and things like that. But let's take a moment to advertise next week's episode of Pandoras Box, because we've got a special guest next week, and it's a hell of a guest to have. For those people that heard our episode from a couple of weeks back, it was all about Drew's adventure to Peru. Drew recounted to us, his whole epic, sort of his quest, his time, getting to Peru, spontaneously going to that festival, coming back, going to the Blue Morpho retreat with Hamilton Souther, doing his 4 ayahuasca ceremonies, what it was all like. If you haven't heard that episode, just go on Spotify or YouTube. You can check it out. So that it was just a couple of episodes back. But Hamilton Souther got in contact with Drew just a couple of days ago. And I don't know if he actually watched the pod or what, but anyway, he said that he would be, he'd be happy to come on as a guest. So obviously we very much accepted, his offer. Obviously I said, you've literally said in the past that he's like almost like a hero of yours. So, I mean, obviously it's sort of like a no-brainer. Also, he's a man that's had a fascinating life. Obviously, Drew's told us a bit of his story in the past, but we'll hear it from the man himself next week. So make sure you tune into next week's Pandora's Box. As I said, we'll have our special guest, Hamilton Souther, the man himself, who's sort of, I mean, it's hard to even describe him. Would you like? I mean, I guess he's almost like a shaman himself now. Isn't he?
He's got.
But he's brought his own philosophy to it.
Yeah,
trained by some of the epic
and
shamans.
the people that
of
trained him
South
gave
America.
him the title of Maestro. And Maestro is
so
like,
that's his official title, Maestro.
Yeah, Maestro Hamilton Souther. So he's like a Maestro shaman, like a master shaman. In that lineage of Peruvian shamanism. And so he got that when he was like quite young. I think he was like 25 or something when they gave him that title, and then he could actually like sit and hold ceremonies and stuff.
Wow.
So just like dedicated his life to like plant medicine and yeah, it's great.
So we'll be hearing sort of like his life story essentially. I'll be asking him all about his life story, like growing up and him getting into it, at the horse's mouth, so to speak. And his own tales, I'm sure.
An interesting tale.
Yeah, and about him opening the Blue Morpho retreat, any of his sort of some of the craziest experiences he's had, we'll be asking him. So that'll be a good episode. I'm looking forward to that. It'll be real interesting.
And also as well, something that he's just started, which we'll probably talk about, is Blue Morpho Academy. So he's like all of these teachings and this thing that he's developed, now bringing that to people from all over the world, and like raising awareness for that everything to do with like ayahuasca and plant medicines and plants and the jungle and everything like that, and putting it into this package where you can actually learn about it yourself and become a community member with like Blue Morpho and everything. So that's going to be really cool hearing about that. I'm on the wait list myself, so I'm really excited about that. It's going to be cool.
Nice one. Yeah, so that's going to be a load of fun. And then hopefully the week after that, I haven't had confirmation from the guys yet, but we've invited Joe and Hen back on the pod from Shoot the Moon, because Joe messaged me, it was weeks ago now. Sorry to keep you hanging, man. If you're listening to this, Joe, sorry to leave you sort of hanging. I know that you messaged me like weeks and weeks ago now, like saying, it'd be cool for you and Hen to come on the pod again. And I said, I'll get back to you. I've only just got back to him. Obviously Drew was away in Peru, and we're busy at work at the moment. There's coming up to the company that we work for, obviously Aspen Waite's coming up to the 30th anniversary of the company being out, so there's like a lot of work going into the sort of the celebration of that, and sort of I'm taking one of the people sort of taking the lead in that. So I've been contacting a lot of people for testimonials and things like that. So it's been like an especially busy time. So yeah, sorry to leave you hanging, man, but it'd be great. Hopefully we'll have Joe and Hen from Shoot the Moon on the pod the week after Hamilton Souther. So that'd be awesome.
Good couple of weeks coming up.
Yeah. So yeah, I thought it'd be good to advertise that. So there's some cool stuff coming your way, people. Yeah, I think just to sort of break it up a minute, let's have some quickfire facts. A minute.
Yeah, we like a quickfire fact.
And I think, in my opinion, the more juvenile the quickfire fact, the more fun and entertaining. Because, facts in themselves are interesting, but if a fact also makes you laugh, then it's sort of like 2 for the price of 1, isn't it? 2 birds, 1 stone.
Oh, yeah.
So, I take pride in the more hilarious and juvenile facts. Did you know that termites fart more than any other animal? Some scientists even think termite farts might contribute to global warming.
What?
That's crazy, isn't it?
Tiny little farts.
We talked a little bit about the bubonic plague last week.
Oh, yeah.
Did you know that one of the things that people were told to do during the bubonic plague was they were told to fart in jars and then take the occasional whiff? This was thought to ward off the disease.
Ward off that disease with smelly farts.
Yeah, funnily enough, obviously this didn't
fart
work.
Jar?
But can you imagine if that was like serious medical advice? Like, obviously this bubonic plague's going around. What should I do? And this official's like, right, mate, what you want to do is you want to get a jar, right? You want to fart into it, right? Quickly
Seal it up.
Quickly put the lid on, yeah. Seal it up, and every now and again, just uncork that mother and just
take a little whiff.
Yeah,
like smelling salts.
Sorted, yeah, like smelling salts, but just for farts and bubonic plague. Yeah. Did you know that Benjamin Franklin wrote a whole essay about farting in 1781? It was called "Fart Proudly." I just quite like that, obviously Benjamin Franklin.
I thought it was going to be like some scientific or medical kind of thing.
Obviously, very famous guy,
proudly.
especially in America, very famous. But yeah, wrote an essay called "Fart Proudly." Interesting, isn't it?
I want to read that.
The word pumpernickel roughly translates from German to mean farting devil.
Pumpernickel.
Yeah. Soldiers in the 30 Years' War used to eat a lot of this bread, and apparently it caused a bit of indigestion. So, yeah, pumpernickel is a type of bread.
Pumpernickel bread.
But it translates to farting devil bread.
I thought like pumper, like pump.
Yeah, pump it up, baby.
Pump it up.
So, on another farting fact, did you know that herrings use loud farts to communicate with one another? According to one researcher, and I quote, "It sounds very much like someone blowing a high-pitched raspberry." So interesting, isn't it, how some people can...
Like humans do that to communicate sometimes. Especially with your mates and stuff.
Yeah. Well, yeah, particularly with you guys, because it makes you really laugh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that if Hen's listening to this, he'll really like this fact. Because obviously when Hen and Joe were a guest on the show last time, Henry famously played us
famous fart,
his longest ever fart, which he was hoping maybe would get him into the Guinness Book of World Records. Unfortunately, it didn't, because some crazy farter out there had been eating probably some pumpernickel bread and became a farting devil. But this is a gas-related fact. So yeah, I think Hen will hopefully like this. There is a man, he might not have died, called Paul Hunn, and his nickname is the Burper King. He currently holds the world record for the loudest burp. So not the longest or burp or fart or anything like that, but it's the loudest burp. He's burped at a volume of 109.9 decibels.
That is loud, man.
So it's hard in sort of layman's terms. How loud do you reckon that is? If you as a musician had to compare that to something, I know it might be a hard question off the top of your head, but what would you reckon? What do you reckon is about 109.9 decibels? So basically 110 decibels. What would you reckon?
I don't really know, but like...
what would you say the average gig is?
Yeah.
What would you say the average gig is in terms of decibels?
I don't know, man. I would say about 100 decibels or something. Like
really?
For quite a loud gig. I would have thought so.
So you reckon this guy's burp was louder than a gig?
I can't imagine it's much over 100 decibels.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Either way. Well, I mean, let's face it. People here, let's say we all have phones nowadays. You can look up different volumes of different stuff in decibels. So maybe someone do some research. Let us know some different figures, and then
I watched a YouTube video the other day of someone their exhaust on the back of the car of like a loud exhaust, and they turned it on and revved it and had a little like decibel meter behind, and that was about 75.
Are you kidding me? So this guy has burped like 40 decibels louder than a loud exhaust.
Yeah,
that's well crazy. Impressive. Fair shout to Paul the Burper King Hun. Yeah. Oh, well, it goes on to say actually after this. So funnily enough, apparently it's louder than a large orchestra playing.
Whoa, there you go. Then.
That is a crazy burping volume. Imagine just having that weird ability that your burps are just ridiculously loud. Just burp and just like somebody like 100 feet away can just hear it. Sounds like a crazy superpower.
I did think it was crazy, like those, the arapaimas.
Oh yeah.
They do this. They do
Giant
this.
Amazon fish.
Yeah, they do this sound, which
Stun fish.
I'm guessing like a burp or something, but that was like really loud. It was like an explosion. It sounded like an explosion.
I reckon they do that to stun smaller fish, and then it'll give them the chance to quickly go and eat
I
them.
also think as well it might have something to do with the air, the air intake that because they've got such big mouths, they come up to the surface, and the way they get it is like and they might. I reckon they might swallow air from that as well, and it's the way they expel it as well.
Probably.
I don't know. That's just a thought. Though.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's like.
Yeah, I mean, it might be. I know that obviously, like whales and stuff use sometimes. No, that's not what I was going to say. But I'm sure they do, kinky buggers. But I was going to say use sometimes like sound and stuff. Cause they've got such high, to stun like animals they want to eat and things like that.
Like the sperm whale does. Yeah. Can do a crazy.
But even in like killer whales and dolphins and stuff, they do it as well. They can they'll emit like a hybrid sound and they'll stun a fish, and then before you know it, obviously they've been eaten. Whereas otherwise the fish is like caning it off, and it's just that millisecond of just being stunned is enough to just swallow it. So I reckon, I think it would almost be silly that if they do have such an ability to do such a violent sort of expellation of air.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for a purpose like that, I reckon it would just make sense.
Yeah.
So while it's a guess, but I reckon I wouldn't be surprised at all if it was something like, to stun a small fish just quickly enough, for enough amount of time, to eat them. So we've had the loudest burp in history, recorded history anyway, and now on to the longest burp. So Michel Forgioni holds the record for the longest burp. Guinness World Record says his history-making belch lasted for 1 minute, 13 seconds, and 57 milliseconds. That's quite a long burp, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, just like expelling air for that long, like
it's mad that he didn't have to breathe.
Like, yeah.
You know what I mean? You think he would have imagine it. I reckon as soon as he must have done that, he must have been like, because that's like I mean, it's a fairly long time to go without breathing, isn't it?
Yeah, that's mad as well.
You can't breathe in while you're burping.
No, that's it. And it's funny to think because I was like, oh yeah, your lungs or you're like kind of expel all the air in your lungs, but I guess when you're burping, it's a mixture of air from your lungs, but also just air from your belly, of like wherever the burp, because the burp would come from your stomach, I guess. It's like air in your stomach.
Right, yeah.
So you're expelling that and almost like closing off your lungs. So it's just, that's weird, isn't it? So you're just basically like holding your breath for that long and just expelling gas from your belly.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it?
Damn.
Did you know that there's a species of fish named a slippery dick?
Oh, baby.
There's also a species of bird called a tufted titmouse.
Oh.
There's also a species of antelope known as a dick.
Oh, dick.
But I'm not done. There's also a species of spider named a sparkle muffin.
Oh, a sparkle muffin.
That's the most unintimidating spider ever, isn't it?
I wonder if it actually is, if it's like scary or not.
I was going to say, it'd be quite ironic if it was like a terrifying spider.
Was it sprinkle muffin?
Sparkle muffin.
Sparkle muffin.
Yeah. There's also a beetle known as a cockchafer.
Oh.
That's quite good, isn't it? Yeah. I don't know about you, and it's funny because I actually have always thought this myself as well, but I've always thought that white beaches are the most aesthetically pleasing. Mm-hmm. One of the reasons I love going to Greece is because they're like, got beautiful white beaches, and it contrasts with the turquoise sea so beautifully.
Such a lovely way.
Yeah, it just seems beautiful. But I didn't know this until I found this fact. But the reason why white sand beaches are white is because they contain large amounts of fish poo, apparently. So they're highly concentrated fish poo. So, I mean, to be honest, that doesn't really bother me that much.
Especially if it's like... Because
the
fish... Yeah, it's hard. It's crystallised.
I wonder why... I haven't looked into it this much, but I wonder why, like, say, like, those beaches... I know that, like, the Caribbean's quite known for its white beaches as well. But I wonder why beaches in the Caribbean and in Crete...
I just thought the sand was much finer. You know what I mean? I thought they were, like, such smaller grains of sand.
That it would change the colour or something. Yeah. Yeah, but it's crazy, interesting, isn't it? Yeah, I wonder why there's a concentration of fish poo in Greece and in the Caribbean.
So much fish poo.
Yeah, interesting, isn't it? Did you know that some penguins have the ability to projectile poo? So they can literally, they could like take out a target. But the reason they do this, the reason that they can shoot poo out of their bum at such high pressure, isn't for any like defense purposes or anything like that, or attacking anything. It's purely because obviously poo is unsanitary. It's dirty essentially, and obviously the more powerfully they can shoot it out, the further away from them it's going to land. So it's more just for cleanliness.
Yeah, because you think of a penguin, and I remember watching they build those little nests of rocks. Have you ever seen that?
No.
So I think it might be the giant penguins, or I can't remember.
Emperor penguins.
I think it might be emperor penguins. It might not be. It might be another species of penguin. But I remember watching David Attenborough like talking about it and stuff. And they build the piles of rocks, and then they have the eggs up on the top of these piles of rocks, and the males collect all the rocks. So the female and like the female will like go to the male that has the biggest pile of rocks and stuff. And there's this big like competition between all the male penguins.
I like how that's just how you're done in penguin society. It's just like check out my rocks.
Yeah, just my lovely pile of rocks that I've made for my nest.
I've got loads of rocks, mate.
Yeah, and then they would literally when they had the eggs, they'd have to keep them like warm, like, you know, for the whole time of the egg like maturing and everything. And the male and the female would swap kind of roles, and like when the female would go out and go fishing, come back, and then the male would go out and sit on the egg while the, you know, taking it in turns. So they'd have to be in that same position on their pile of rocks. So that makes sense as well, because they wouldn't want to just poop there, like, right? So they'd want to squirt it off their nest and like far enough away from them where they can actually still stay in the same place. Because you'd think, why wouldn't they just go over there and poo or something? But they have to stay in that same position like for the whole time when the other penguin is away getting the food to bring back, because they need to constantly, because it gets so cold, they need to constantly be on that egg for the whole time.
That makes sense.
So do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that makes sense.
That makes sense why they don't want to squirt their poo far as well.
Yeah, just projectile poop. I mean, it makes sense really. It makes me think, you know, why don't more animals have the ability to do that? In a way,
I reckon I could projectile poo.
Do you reckon?
If I had the squits.
You know how they say that like Europeans are like up to 4% Neanderthal or something? Maybe you're up to 4% penguin.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
The penguin.
Like, you know, like I'm like
Batman
I'm
forever.
4% Neanderthal, you're 4% penguin. What, like Danny DeVito in frickin' Batman Returns? Mate, that what a great movie, by the way. You know,
it's
Michelle
so good,
Pfeiffer,
isn't it?
Danny DeVito. I mean, I don't know if they're actually technically the best. I think obviously a lot of things in life, why people like them are because of like nostalgia, sentimental value. But I think those Tim Burton Batmans, and I'm sure it's just because obviously as somebody that grew up, you know, right
They're my
through
favourite
the
ones.
entirety of the 90s, you know, like obviously they were arguably the first really good superhero movies. I think, you know, Batman, the first one with Jack Nicholson as the Joker and Kim Basinger, and then the second one, Batman Returns with Danny DeVito, and obviously I'm talking about this Michael Keaton as well. I should obviously mention Michael Keaton because he was the Batman, the original Batman. Well, not the original Batman, in the films, in the 90s films, the Tim Burton films. But they're such good movies. So like they've got such like a gothic feel, and I think like a lot of movies, like a lot of things over the years, I think there's like an over-reliance nowadays, maybe too much on like flashy fight scenes and CGI, whereas like in those days I felt like it was action-packed watching it at the time, and it probably is action-packed, but it's just not over the top. But because nowadays they can technically make it seem like crazy, I guess they just do because they can. You think about some of the crazy Marvel battle scenes and that, and don't get me wrong, I'm a fan of the Marvel movies and stuff, but sometimes it's almost like they're doing it because they can. Whereas if you watch like the original Batman with Michael Keaton, Tim Burton's Batman, and then Batman Return, the second Michael Keaton film, and Tim Burton's last Batman movie, like it feels action-packed watching it, and especially did at the time. Like there are obviously lots of fight scenes in it and stuff, and explosions and stuff, but it's not like over the top. A lot of it's done by like mood and clever writing and building an atmosphere and ambiance and music, you know, the score and the acting, you know, like, and it's pure. I think there's something a little bit maybe getting lost with that. Not in all movies, obviously, but just in those really big budget, like Hollywood movies, especially in like superhero movies. But I think you can see people are like getting a bit more bored of those movies now.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it's impressive, but then it wears off quickly.
Yeah.
It's like that cheap thrill kind of thing that we were talking
Whereas
about
I think
earlier.
good writing, there's no substitute for it. Man, I think like one of my favourite movies, The Last of the Mohicans. Man, I watched that, and like by the end of the movie, I I have been so pulled in, and I am so hooked and so gripped. The score is so good, and the acting is so good, and the visualization, the visuals, just the production, the direction, the action, the score is at such a high level that by the end of the movie, I am just completely immersed. I'm like freaking like crying when Uncas dies. Spoiler alert. You know, I'm like freaking just so into it. Like, I could not be more into a movie. You know, I think when you're like such a high level movie, like that's probably, I think, you know, that's right up there, like my very, very top favorite movies. But it's one of those things that like I watch it every now and again. And you know when you're almost like in disbelief about how something good is?
Yeah.
Do you ever feel like that?
Yeah.
Like, that's how I feel like when I watch The Last Makers. I'm like, I can't believe how good this movie is. Like, it's like, if somebody said, right, okay, I know it, you know, just for the sake of being balanced, right, critique it as hard as you can. I don't even know what I'd say.
Yeah.
There's I can't, like, how the hell would you improve The Last Mohicans?
That's awesome, man.
The score is perfect. It's like masterclass in composition. It's like, it freaking like moves you. Like, you know, the acting, obviously Daniel Day-Lewis is renowned to be a great actor, but all the actors and actresses in it are just fantastic. The storyline in itself, like the writing, obviously, which you know the whole story's based on, is just a fantastic. The visuals of like North America, but obviously they shot it in a way like right in the wilderness of North America, so it's depicted in a way that it would have been like, you know, hundreds and hundreds of years ago, you know, shortly after the Europeans started going there. And it's just beautiful, like mountains and waterfalls and forests.
I'd love to see North America at one point in my life.
Oh yeah,
go and trek around there. It'd be so beautiful. And
it sort of like brings out the differences as well, because I think a lot of people maybe that just aren't into it at all, and you know might just think like, you know, regardless of whether you want to call them Native Americans or like Indian tribes, you know, might just think of them all as being quite similar. But obviously, like there are so many different Indian tribes in America, and each of them had their own philosophies, and that some of them were complete pacifists. I mean, obviously, we're hunted and stuff, but you know, very peaceful tribes. Other ones were very
warrior
violent
tribes,
and well, but not just warriors, like violent. There's a difference between being a warrior and being like savagely violent. Because in my opinion, you could be a great warrior, but it doesn't necessarily mean if somebody that came along that you didn't know them, that you would instantly just freaking like skin them alive. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's like next level brutality.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because in that they show, like, you know, obviously the movie's called The Last of the Mohicans, and it's the last of the Mohican tribe. But then there's the what are they called? The Huron. The Huron are in it, and I assume this probably is historically accurate, because if not, it just seems a little bit random. But like in the movie, the Huron tribe, they're like a lot more violent. You know, like they're the tribe. I remember there's like a scene, you know, they're like the ones that like, scalp people. Like obviously I know that some Native American tribes are quite famous for scalping their foes. So they would be like scalping people, sometimes while they were still alive. And there's also this scene, and apparently it did used to happen sometimes, they cut out the heart of this guy while he's still alive. And then obviously if you do it very quickly and you're very efficient at doing it, I guess if you've done anything enough, you're getting pretty good at it. And then they would like show the heart to the person before they've died. Because obviously there's still just enough blood circulating in between, you know, you pull the heart out and then show the heart to them while and then they just die like 5 seconds later. Imagine the shock.
Crazy.
The visual shock, you're dying, and you're like, the shock anyway of like feeling the knife cutting around your heart, and then just pulling it out, and the last thing you see is just your own heart.
I can't actually believe
the blood's,
people
like,
that's happened
down.
to people. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, when you think of...
Mate, we're privileged, man.
Yeah.
We're privileged. Count your blessings. I think that's one of the things. I mean, it's a little bit like going back to what we were saying earlier about why it's just like, can be like very cringe, but also just like overly negative, seeing people moan about on Facebook and that. It's like, man, count your blessings. They're people... We are like the top 0.01% most privileged people that have ever lived, and anybody listening to this podcast is as well. Like, guaranteed.
100%.
You know, regardless of how much of a bad day you're having. You know, and I don't mean that's not downplaying anybody's hardships in life, because we all go through
your troubles
hardships.
Are always relative to what you know yourself.
And it doesn't mean that they're meaningless, but let's face it, there's levels. Yeah. There's your missus leaving you, or you getting fired from your job, or you just feeling down, or maybe you've unexpectedly lost a lot of money.
There's getting your heart cut out by a Huron.
And then it getting showed to you before you die, and then also knowing that maybe, you know, that's probably happening to a lot of people around you as well that are like, you know, you probably know and probably get on with, because they're like your comrades essentially. Pretty brutal. You know, I mean, you hear about a lot of stuff in life. You know, I was watching a really interesting video the other day, and it was like about the Viet Cong. You know the Viet Cong? So in the Vietnam War, Viet Cong was like, it's like the people that the Americans were fighting, really. And they just made these like vast, amazing underground like labyrinths, like tunnels. And they deliberately made them very small because the Vietnamese in general were about 20-25% smaller than the Americans. So a lot of Americans couldn't even fit down the holes. But very, very small American soldiers, I can't remember, there was like a name, like they would get given something, like a name, but they was basically, their job was to like go down into the tunnels with like a torch and a pistol. Apart from anything else, what a terrifying job. You know, there's one thing being like out in the jungles, like with your rifle or your M16, like fighting. And there's another thing to be like in this, like the cold, dark, this tiny, suffocating tunnel, which is so small that like the other guys in your platoon can't even get into. And they were saying in Vietnam as well, there was like poisonous scorpions, poisonous snakes, poisonous spiders that would like crawl down there, obviously because they liked it almost like it's like a cave. But not just that, the Viet Cong would deliberately put down like booby traps down there. So, you know, and they were saying something ridiculous. I can't remember what it was like out of every like 100 like soldiers that were like sent down, only like 7 would survive.
Whoa, that's
bad odds, man. That's really bad odds.
I ain't going down there.
I'd be like, no, I'm okay.
Give me that beef burger. I'm going to fat myself up.
Yeah, well, I guess they wouldn't have told them the stats at the time, and I guess they didn't even really have accurate stats until probably after the war, because that's, I suppose, when they were like sort of made it all. But yeah, you know, the Viet Cong would deliberately like have booby traps down there, so they would, you know, deliberately place these dangerous animals down there, or they would have like a random little pit with like, you know, sharpened bamboo spikes, which before they would place as well, the Viet Cong would wee on and like poo and wee on it, so that if you got impaled and you didn't die, you'd get savagely infected and then die like a slow, agonizing death.
Oh, savage, man, isn't it?
Or sometimes, you know, it would trip something that would just suddenly cause a cave in, so you'd just be like buried alive. And I just think, imagine how terrifying that would be. Right? Imagine like being one of those soldiers that trips that, and you're buried alive, and then
you'd have to know those caves well if you were Vietnamese as well.
Vietnamese, yeah. Like, but I think there'd probably be about 30 seconds while you were probably still alive, unless the weight of it crushed you. You'd probably be 30 seconds while you're alive, and you know that you've been buried alive, and you know that you're dying, and you're probably your last moments you're just like breathing in dirt, and it's filling up your airways, and you're like, I'm gonna die 30 feet below the earth in this cold, dark place surrounded by scorpions, snakes, and spiders, in this like crazy freaking jungle.
Yeah, bad way to go, man.
Like, and you just like grew up in this really nice little like town,
suburban village
in like Ohio, you know, like flirting with the local farmer girls in their little short shorts, you know, and that's
the way it should be, dude.
Yeah, man, that's brutal, isn't it? What a brutal. Yeah, so just get back to the point, you know, like, yeah, we're count your blessings, man.
Live in a very privileged time.
Yeah, for sure. I say there's I mean, even like little stats in itself, like I know that like, the average life expectancy of somebody during the reign of King Alfred the Great in Britain was 32.
Whoa.
Average life expectancy, 32 years old.
I'll be dead
so
already.
We'd be like, we'd be
the elderly.
Yeah, we'd be like getting on. I mean, don't get me wrong, there are historical accounts of people that made it into their 80s and stuff, but that would have been like,
it was a rarity,
super rare, because obviously, yeah, if the average, I think the average life expectancy nowadays is like, what was it, like 78, 79, something like that. And obviously there are people that live to like 100, but it's all on averages, isn't it? So the average life expectancy nowadays is like 79. So that's taking into account everybody that dies in a car crash when they're 25, dies of something, you know, right through from like childbirth all the way to like, you know, so average is like 78, 79, I think. I think women's average life expectancy is a bit higher than men, probably for obvious reasons, because we're idiots. But yeah, it's mad to think the average life expectancy was 32. So, man,
I remember
crazy.
hearing about that in whatever time period it was, whether it was medieval or whatever in England, just how many just like horrible like tapeworms just people just had, like everyone just had tapeworms.
I think we talked about it a little bit recently.
Yeah,
didn't we?
that was so disgusting seeing like
stats
of that.
I remember, funnily enough, because we were talking about York earlier on, but I remember a couple of years ago they found this new excavation site in York. I think it was down by some docks somewhere, and they found it was like a Viking settlement. And there was like Viking poo there. And obviously, like, because 1,000 years relatively isn't that long, they like could examine the poo. And from the poo, they like could see that like the Viking, that whoever the Viking was that had that poo had like tapeworm and all these different like things that were like in his poo.
Yeah, that's just
Savage, isn't it?
It's disgusting to think like.
Oh, it's very disgusting.
Yeah, that's just how people lived, and when you think about the cleanliness, and we were talking that about, you know, they only had a bath in June, like in the
once
in May.
a week apparently Vikings would, but Saxons would be a lot less.
Yeah. And it was like, and that was the reason why the weddings were in June, because it was like 1 month after the first bath of the year. So the smell would
people
still
must
be
have
like,
stank.
and the bouquets, and the reason that people had fans, it wasn't because of heat, it was because of the smell, and everyone would be fanning because they're just trying to keep the smell away from
I just can't even comprehend how much people would have stank.
Yeah,
because
like,
I think like let's face it, I think we've all had, for some reason or another. We've probably all been for like a week before where we haven't
stinking.
Yeah, we've all gone for say like a week where we haven't washed.
But that's like a limit. That's like the limit.
But mate, even after that, I feel like gross.
Yeah.
I feel gross. You feel like
I just can't believe that's how humans just lived.
You feel like you're on the verge of some sort of like skin condition.
Yeah.
Like some rash growing or something. You know what I mean? You know, like developing some sort of like skin condition or some rash, or you know, like.
Yeah. How did people do it?
Yeah, I guess it was just like the norm, but it makes you think people must have been very uncomfortable back in those days.
Yeah.
Not only was death like a lot more, I don't know, like normal, I guess I was going to say, but like I guess just like it was just, you know, because people just died so much younger. But in general, even when you were alive, like people must have just been a lot more uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Because if you did have like such dirty skin and you had worms and you had all this else and you had like lice, you know, lice and worms and like... You can't have been comfortable. You must have been itchy as hell.
I'm so glad I'm not living that existence right now.
Yeah.
This chair is so comfy.
The only really thing they had better than us in terms of hygiene was apparently people's teeth back then were good.
Yeah, because there's not as much
sugar.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I did some facts, didn't I, on sugar quite recently on the pod, like a month ago or something. But it's like sugar wasn't common in the UK until like a couple of 100 years ago. And when it was first introduced, whenever it was, like 400 years ago, maybe as long as 500 years ago. Even then, it was something that only very, very rich people had. So basically, unless you were like royalty or nobles,
one of the queens, was it one of the Queen Elizabeth or something?
Yeah, Queen Elizabeth I.
Yeah, was obsessed with sugarcane, and she'd always be chewing on sugar canes, and then she had terrible
she had
teeth.
black teeth. But think 1,000 years ago, there were no freaking sweets. You know, you'd be eating like
sugarcane.
You'd be eating like bread, fruit, vegetables, and meat.
But there was honey.
Oh yeah, baby.
Oh,
well, obviously
baby.
mead. Yeah.
Like honey. Oh, the because it still tastes like the nectar of the gods to me, you know.
Oh, I love honey so much, man. You know I do.
So good. It's so much better than sugar.
Oh yeah.
Like, the taste of it is so much better.
Or like
than
maple
sugar.
syrup as well. I love.
Oh, maple syrup, just like A grade organic maple syrup. I'm like,
hell yeah, dog.
Yeah, it's really cool. Who Meg works for, they've got where they produce the Manacade, the product in Canada. This guy's just got tons of maple trees in his garden. He's like got land, and so he's just sent her over like 2 liters of like tapped maple from his tree, so just pure, and it's so good. I remember they brought some back last time, and it was so good. I can't wait to taste that. Just like not processed anything, just literally straight from the tree in a bottle. Like that's gonna be,
and then straight into your gob. Yeah, beautiful, man. But yeah, other than the teeth, everything back then would have been pretty gross, you know.
Yeah, oh man.
STIs must have been through the roof, man.
Yeah, because people would still be having sex all the time and everything, but just in that stinky, horrible mess.
Oh yeah, I know I know that obviously, like, I don't know when smallpox first came about, but I know that by sort of like the reign of sort of like Mad King George, I know that by that sort of period in England, like smallpox was like a real bad problem. Like people would, like loads of people had like smallpox, and that's just rough, isn't it?
Yeah.
Mad STIs and stuff.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. Crazy.
So
isn't it?
let's leave it on that note that we're all glad that we haven't got smallpox, and that we haven't had our heart cut out by a Huron and then showed it to us before we're dying, or triggered a cave in 30 feet beneath the earth in some crazy Viet Cong tunnel, or killed by some crazy snake or scorpion or spider under this tunnel and just like just quivering to death in
Let
darkness.
us count our blessings.
Yeah, instead, I'm just going to go have a coffee and have a workout now, which is much nicer.
And have some nice spag bowl after.
Yeah.
Oh,
Fusilini bog. Mate, what could go wrong? Thanks for chilling out with us, everybody. We love you. Have a great week. And tune in next week to hear our episode with the legendary maestro, of ayahuasca, Howitt and Souther. Cheers, folks. Have a good one.